justifiable.
And then you just leave. You can't do
Just to take our shoes off.
It's like, well, because believe that some people think it's superficial.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anybody want to make any comments?
We are discussing, or I'm explaining my own. I have explained my own experience of being digged into. Why are you doing philosophy? Why are you doing such a complicated? I consider such a complicated topic.
Yeah.
For example, in the situation of gathering with relatives, yeah, and I try to explain my concern or my particularness, but always I give up to explain.
Yeah.
And
have you thought of lying?
sorry.
Have you thought of lying? You understand? Telling lies. Yes. It's all right. I'm not serious.
Yeah. So this sentence is very feeling as if my own experience,
Yes, okay.
and I also associate it to the Adrian's presentation as philosophers as exile, and so I always feel like that I'm exiled from how to say. It might sound strange, but ordinary. I'm outside of community of ordinary people, and if I try to make them understood, it might be too provocative to them, and they might see me as some odd person. Yeah. So yeah. This is just comment.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, I do understand there comes a point when there is extreme frustration. Sorry. There comes a point when there is extreme frustration because you can no longer communicate effectively with somebody else. But another day, another time, perhaps.
I was thinking about this possibility. What should we stop when we reach the bedrock? And then I was remember when there is this massive discussion about the refugees going to Europe, and there is this massive outcry. No, we don't. Let's close the borders. Don't allow them. And then that picture of that baby came up. I don't know if you see that in Japan. A child that I think the family tried to cross. To go to Turkey, and the child died on the sand, and that picture of that baby had a massive impact on how people saw the refugees crossing over to Europe for a certain period of time. And then I think at that point there was a kind of bedrock that's being reached in terms, no more refugees, they are coming here. And then when people saw the picture of the baby, I think it impacted on the way they saw the humanity of that child that could never be because the child died. And then I just wonder, is that always about words? Is there any other ways that you can communicate and rediscover things that's beyond the words than sometimes the words cannot say? Maybe the rhetoric may take us to this space in which we can argument, because maybe in the middle of your argument you may not have the words in your mind correctly, to say, or you don't remember, or you exhaust your explanations. But then, looking at the child dead, I think had so much an expression of pain and sorrow that maybe 1,000 words could not give. So I'm just wondering if the bedrock could be challenged and using other means of communication rather than just words.
In an argument, you can get stuck on particular phrasing, can't you? And this can be a political argument or a family argument, and you just keep going back to the same phrasing, the same formulae, as it were, and they become dead. So sometimes doing something, or doing something different, or that can be very significant. I think that, well, Wittgenstein would say that seeing a picture would also be something that occurs within a language game. It's not that language games are just about words, because of course when we see pictures we have thoughts go through our minds which are worded thoughts, and understanding what a picture is depends upon a linguistic background and so on. But I think the general line you're taking is a very important one. Does it seem too kind of abstract to deal with the problems we're talking about, or does it seem real or in relation to these things, or what?
I think it allows you to construct more concrete examples. We were sort of had a thought experiment, I suppose, of imagine you wanted to go into a temple and the rule was to remove your shoes, and somebody was there saying, remove your shoes. You could say, why? And the person at the temple door could say, because the spirits here insist on it. You could comply and go in, or you could seek further justification. You might have a belief that your God requires your feet to be covered at all times. And counter with that, in which case they might go back. You could rush past them and go in non-compliance, and so that can lead you to action in contravention of the rules. Or you could refuse to play the game any further and not participate and go away. So compliance, non-compliance and non-participation seem to me the options in that situation. I mean, Cass's example there is perhaps non-participation. We'll do it another day. I'll come back to the temple and perhaps there's another person who will let me in. Or I'll sneak back in at night or something like that. So not too abstract in the sense that you can't do something with it. I mean, we tied ourselves up in knots a little bit about that, but still.
Yeah.
So this morning we read the book Nostalgia, and her experience. She talks about the idea of translation. I wonder if this Wittgenstein's 217, this experience of encountering bedrock, has something to do with the experience of the untranslatable. This sense of gap and this sense of being isolated from language community, but still you have to move going on. Maybe related the experience of untranslatable, not necessarily untranslatable between two different language systems, but once in one's relation, it's already being erased, but one's relationship with, even with mother tongue, this kind of experience may take place. Just a comment.
I couldn't catch up with the discussion about all, but with Kensuke's support, I felt the I said here that the word "this is simply what I do" is I think it represents the difficulty of explanation. For example, Japanese people get off their shoes when they coming home, but the Western people cannot understand that action, and they ask why, but Japanese people cannot answer, but only they can only say this is what we do. So I don't know whether it relates this problem, but I thought that.
I'm thinking about the two interpretation of 217, and the first one is very authoritarian interpretation. For example, as Ryota says, when we enter the building, Japanese take off the shoes, and when we asked why, we can just say, this is what simply I do. And Western people usually don't do this way. But if Western people come into the building with shoes, it is a big problem. So we have to say this. You shouldn't do that. And in this case, this is simply what I do becomes authoritarian. But in Tako's case, why do you philosophize? It is a problem of taste, and I can explain my relatives because I like it. There is no problem. So this sentence depends on the context. The sentence is used, I think.
So in the taking off of the shoes, the community's authority is rightly there, isn't it? So it is true that it's the community that has authority in those circumstances. In the case of apartheid, South Africa and apartheid, how would you describe that case?
South Africa.
Yes, because if the community in South Africa says, this is simply what we do, we keep the black people in inferior circumstances, is that okay?
Sorry, what is it?
In the shoe case, the community seems to have uncontroversial authority over this, to me. It's just a social practice, and it's not reasonable to argue with it.
Okay.
In the apartheid case, if you say, oh, it's just a social practice, we keep the black people in inferior positions, there's something very wrong with that, isn't there? So the place of reasons, place of developing reasons and argument is different in these cases.
I think in the present case, I think it's a case of the Germany about the scarf, Islamic scarf around the face. I don't know how to say. Hijra. Yeah. So hijra. Then, so for example, Prime Minister of Merkel mentioned that it's Germany. So people in Germany should follow the rule of German. So I agree with her mentioning, with her saying, so that then about so for example, Tako's case, he has an authority inside in himself because it's just the thing about himself. But about for example, shoeing, about the case of customs of shoeing, it's a case of Japan. So then, for example, if they live in Japan, then they should they are included into the Japan. So they should follow the Japanese social customs. But for example, Takuo cannot force his interest inclination towards others. Then it's another case. So then exclude, include. So in his case, there is no problem of including and excluding. But about national problem, the problem of including and excluding, it becomes problem. And but for example, about hijab's case, so German includes those people, but those Islamic people cannot include the German customs. So then, so that's a problem. So now the present problem,
Okay.
apparent problem.